The afternoon sun was warm on Alara's face as she pushed little Leo's stroller through the bustling community fair. At just 6 months old, Leo was the absolute center of her world, a miracle of gurgles and wide, curious eyes. Alara, a former primary school teacher who had happily put her career on hold, lived for these moments. The simple joy of showing her son the world, the vibrant colors of the fairground, the happy chatter of families. Her husband Thomas, a kind and steady man, was working late, but they would share stories of Leo's day when he got home. Their life wasn't grand, but it was rich with love, anchored by the sweet presence of their baby boy. Leo, nestled snugly in his stroller, cooed softly, his tiny hand batting at a bright plastic toy. Alara smiled, her heart overflowing. She stopped by a colorful balloon vendor, the air filled with the scent of popcorn and sweet pastries. "Just a moment, little one," she murmured to Leo. She reached into her bag for her purse, ready to buy him a small, shiny balloon. The purse was deeper than she thought, and she had to shift it, holding the stroller handle with one hand while rummaging with the other. She heard a sudden commotion nearby, laughter followed by a burst of startled shouting. She glanced up quickly, distracted for just a second, then looked back down, her fingers closing around her coins. When she looked up again, ready to pay for the balloon, her world tilted on its axis. The stroller, it was empty. The laughter, the music, the happy sounds of the fair seemed to warp and fade into a terrifying silence. "Leo," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced through her. "Leo!" she cried, louder this time, her eyes scanning frantically, disbelievingly. The brightly colored strollers around hers, the milling crowds, the bustling stalls. None of it made sense. He was gone. In the space of a few seconds, a few steps away, her baby boy had vanished. A scream tore from her throat, a sound of pure, primal terror that stopped people in their tracks. "My baby, he's gone! My baby is gone!" The fairground descended into chaos. People rushed to help, joining the frantic search. The police were called, their sirens a chilling soundtrack to Alara's worst nightmare. Hours blurred into a horrifying eternity. The fair was shut down, searched methodically, questioning, hoping, praying. Alara clung to Thomas, both numb with shock and consumed by a desperate, aching void. Every face in the crowd, every passing car, every empty alleyway held a flicker of agonizing hope, quickly extinguished. The search continued for days, then weeks. Flyers with Leo's sweet face were plastered everywhere. The community rallied around them, offering help, support, prayers. But there were no leads, no witnesses who saw anything specific, nothing concrete to go on. The fair had been so crowded, so chaotic. It was as if Leo had simply disappeared into thin air. Weeks turned into months. The initial surge of public attention faded, replaced by a quiet, heavy silence. The police investigation, diligent but fruitless, eventually reached a standstill. The case was officially closed, filed away as an unsolved mystery. For Alara and Thomas, life became a monochrome existence, drained of all joy. The house felt vast and empty without Leo's presence, without the sound of his cries, his coos, his burgeoning laughter. Their shared grief, instead of bringing them closer, drove them apart. The unspoken pain, the what-ifs, the crushing helplessness became an invisible wall between them. Thomas, lost in his own sorrow, couldn't offer the comfort Alara desperately needed, and she, consumed by her own anguish, couldn't reach through his. Their marriage, once a haven of love, buckled under the unbearable weight of their loss. Eventually, quietly, they separated, two broken people unable to mend each other. Alara moved away from the town that held too many painful memories, too many empty spaces where Leo should have been. She tried to build a new life elsewhere, working odd jobs, but the heartache was a constant companion. The years that followed were a blur of quiet suffering, punctuated by moments of sharp, agonizing remembrance. A child's laugh in the distance, a glimpse of a stroller, a child's face in a photograph. 5 years passed, each one a testament to enduring pain. Alara received a call that brought her back to the town she had fled. Her mother had fallen ill, and Alara knew she had to be there. Returning was a raw, emotional experience, walking the familiar streets, seeing the park where she used to take Leo, the market square where the fair had been held. The memories were everywhere, vivid and painful. She found a small, quiet room to rent and started looking for work. Her savings were meager, and her mother's medical expenses were mounting. Scrolling through the local paper one afternoon, her eyes landed on an advertisement. Experienced caregiver needed for young boy, residing on private estate. Discretion and kindness essential. Inquire within. The address listed belonged to the sprawling, historic Finch estate on the outskirts of town, a place of whispered wealth and old secrets. A long shot, surely, but Ilara had experience with children. Driven by necessity and a faint, desperate hope for a steady income, she decided to apply. The interview was held in the grand, somewhat somber study of the estate. Mr. Alistair Finch was a man in his late 50s, with silvering temples and eyes that held a quiet sadness. He was polite, formal, but seemed kind. He explained that he was recently widowed. His wife, Genevieve, had passed away a few months prior after a long illness. He needed someone reliable, gentle, to care for his son, Oliver, a boy of 5. The previous nanny had left unexpectedly. Mr. Finch spoke of Oliver with quiet affection, mentioning he was a thoughtful, sometimes quiet boy, and that the household was still adjusting to their loss. Ilara, sensing his genuine need and feeling a flicker of empathy for his own sorrow, spoke of her experience, her love for children, carefully omitting the most painful chapter of her life. Mr. Finch seemed satisfied, and to her surprise, offered her the position on the spot. A few days later, Ilara arrived at the Finch estate, her heart a mixture of apprehension and cautious hope. The house was vast, filled with antique furniture and hushed corridors. Mrs. Gable, the elderly housekeeper, a woman with a warm smile and knowing eyes, showed her to her room and explained the household routine. Then it was time to meet Oliver. He was playing quietly in the garden, a small boy with dark curls and a thoughtful expression. Ilara's heart gave a strange lurch as she saw him. There was something about him, a familiarity she couldn't place. "Oliver, this is Ilara," Mr. Finch said gently. "She's going to be your new nanny." Oliver looked up, his big brown eyes meeting Ilara's. In that instant, an inexplicable connection sparked between them. It was as if they had known each other forever. Oliver smiled tentatively, a sweet, shy smile that somehow felt deeply familiar. Ilara's breath hitched. From that moment on, a beautiful, unexpected bond began to form between Ilara and Oliver. Despite the 5-year age gap and the circumstances of their meeting, they clicked instantly. Oliver, usually reserved, opened up to Ilara, sharing his stories, his drawings, his small wonders. Ilara found herself laughing again, truly laughing, something she hadn't done in years. Oliver's infectious joy filled the empty spaces within her, warming her heart in ways she thought were no longer possible. Caring for him didn't feel like a job. It felt natural, right? A balm to her wounded soul. They spent hours together, playing in the garden, reading stories in the sunroom, exploring the quiet corners of the old house. Ilara watched Oliver with a love that felt strangely maternal, a love that went beyond her professional duties. She noticed his small quirks, his favorite toys, the way he tilted his head when he was thinking. There was so much about him that resonated with a deep, buried memory, a flicker of familiarity she couldn't quite grasp. One afternoon, Ilara was helping Oliver get ready for his bath. He chattered happily about his day, pointing out a new drawing he'd made. As she helped him pull off his shirt, her gaze fell upon his shoulder blade. She froze. Her breath caught in her throat. There, just below his shoulder, was a cluster of 3 small moles, arranged in a distinct triangle. Her hand trembled as she reached out, her fingers tracing the familiar pattern. A jolt of pure electric shock ran through her. This mark. She knew this mark. She had counted them, kissed them, stared at them in those precious early months. It was Leo's mark. Unmistakable. Impossible. Her mind reeled, a whirlwind of disbelief, hope, and sheer terror. How? How could this be? Oliver, Gabriel from the original text, was Leo, her son. He was alive. He was here, in this house. She stumbled back, her legs weak, tears blurring her vision. Oliver looked at her, confused by her sudden distress. "Ilara, are you okay?" he asked, his small voice filled with worry. Ilara knelt, pulling him into a fierce hug, tears streaming down her face. She clung to him, burying her face in his soft curls, whispering his name, her real name, over and over. "Leo, my Leo, it's you. It's really you." Oliver, sensing the intensity of her emotion, hugged her back tightly, though he didn't understand her tears. Ilara somehow managed to get through the rest of Oliver's bath and bedtime routine, her mind a chaotic mess of emotions. Once he was asleep, she knew she had to speak to Mr. Finch. The confirmation of the birthmark, the overwhelming feeling of holding her son, it couldn't be a coincidence. Her heart pounding, her hands trembling, she made her way to Mr. Finch's study. He looked up as she entered, surprised to see her at this hour, her face pale and tear-streaked. "Ilara, is something wrong? Is Oliver all right?" he asked, standing up, concern in his voice. "He's fine, Mr. Finch," Ilara managed to say, her voice unsteady. "But I need to ask you about Oliver, about how you came to have him." Mr. Finch looked puzzled. "How I came to have him? He's my son, Ilara. My wife, Genevieve, and I waited years, tried everything. We finally adopted him. It was the happiest day of our lives." "Adopted?" Ilara repeated, a cold dread mixing with the fragile hope in her heart. She took a deep breath and plunged in, recounting her story, the fair, the kidnapping, the years of searching, the birthmark, describing it in vivid detail. She finished, her voice breaking. "Oliver, he has that mark, Mr. Finch. The exact same mark. I believe Oliver is my son Leo." Mr. Finch stared at her, his face draining of color. Adoption? Kidnapping? His son Oliver, not truly his. The confusion and shock were overwhelming. He sank back into his chair, running a hand through his hair. "No," he whispered, shaking his head. "No, that's impossible. Genevieve, she told me the adoption agency finally called, after years of waiting. She handled all the paperwork with her father. He's a lawyer. She said it was a private adoption, that the birth mother wanted anonymity. We brought him home, a few months old. He was thin, quiet, not well taken care of, but he was ours. Our little Oliver." His voice cracked with emotion. "She loved him, Ilara. Genevieve adored him." He looked at Ilara, seeing the truth and agony in her eyes, and a terrible suspicion began to dawn. His wife, her desperation, her father, the lawyer, the rushed private adoption. I need to look into this, Ilara," Mr. Finch said, his voice grim. "I need to understand." The days that followed were agonizing for both of them. Ilara continued to care for Oliver, holding him close, showering him with love, trying to act normally while her heart was in turmoil. Mr. Finch delved into his late wife's affairs, searching for records, contacting the lawyer. Genevieve's father. The truth, when it emerged, was a story of desperate longing and devastating deception. Genevieve, consumed by the pain of infertility and the failure of countless treatments, had suffered a breakdown. That day at the fair, seeing Ilara with her healthy baby, something had snapped. In a moment of profound emotional crisis, she had taken Leo from the stroller, convinced she was meant to be his mother. Her father, horrified by her actions, but driven by a misguided desire to protect his daughter, had used his legal expertise to create false adoption papers, weaving a convincing lie to cover the kidnapping and present Leo as a legitimately adopted child to Mr. Finch. Mr. Finch, loving and trusting his wife implicitly, had believed the story without question, blinded by his own joy at finally having a child. Confronted with irrefutable evidence, falsified documents, the lawyer's confession, the chilling details matching the original kidnapping report, Mr. Finch was devastated. He had lived a lie for 5 years, unknowingly raising a child stolen from his mother. His heart ached for Ilara, for the years of suffering she had endured, and for Oliver, the innocent victim of this terrible secret. He was also heartbroken by the betrayal of his wife and father-in-law. Mr. Finch did the only right thing. He contacted the authorities presenting the evidence. The truth was painful, shocking, but it finally brought closure to Leo's case. Through DNA testing and corroborating evidence, Oliver was officially confirmed to be Leo, Ilara's son. The reunion was a moment of overwhelming emotion. After 5 long years, Ilara held her son again, her heart overflowing with a love that had never diminished. For Leo, now 5 years old, it was confusing. He knew Ilara, loved her as his kind nanny, but this intensity, this claim of being his mother, it was a lot for his young mind to process. He clung to Ilara but also looked to Mr. Finch, the only father he had ever known. Understanding the complexities of the situation, Ilara and Mr. Finch navigated the path forward with compassion and respect. Mr. Finch, though not Leo's biological father, had loved him and raised him as his own. He too was a victim of Genevieve's desperation and deception. Ilara recognized his genuine affection for Leo. They agreed that Mr. Finch would remain a part of Leo's life, a beloved father figure who could visit and maintain a connection. Ilara began the process of rebuilding her life with Leo, showering him with the years of pent-up love and affection. It was a journey of adjustment for Leo, learning about his past, understanding his true identity, but Ilara's unwavering love and the gentle support of Mr. Finch provided a stable foundation. The Blackwood family, broken by grief, began to heal, finding solace in the return of their beloved Leo. Ilara's parents, overjoyed to have their grandson back, welcomed him with open arms. The pain of the past years would never completely disappear, but it was now tempered by the joy of reunion and the quiet process of healing. Mr. Finch, finding a measure of peace in the knowledge that he had done the right thing and in his continued connection to Leo, supported Ilara in any way he could. He had lost a wife and the life he thought he had built, but he gained a new understanding of love, resilience, and the unpredictable, often painful ways that destiny weaves our lives together. Ilara's story is a powerful testament to a mother's unwavering love and the enduring hope that can survive years of darkness. From the depths of despair, through an unexpected twist of fate, she was led back to her lost son, finding not just him, but also a unique, complex connection with the man who had unknowingly been part of his life, a bond forged in shared loss and a mutual love for the child who had brought them together. It was a journey through heartache and deception, ending in a profound and unexpected redemption, proving that even after the worst nightmare, love can find its way home.